Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Get a Load of This podcast. I am your host, Ryan Young, and we have Thomas Comstock today. We are doing a surprise episode. Thomas, say hi to everybody.
Hey
So we're going to do
guys.
an episode today, a little different from what we've done. We're going to start to integrate a segment into our podcast periodically where we bring up current trucking topics into the conversation, where either we're having a discussion amongst ourselves. You may notice that Cameron's gone today. He will be back very soon. But we wanted to have a quick discussion, and we want to do these in the future where either we have other guests on that are relevant to current topics, or where we're discussing current topics and possibly having you chime in. So we'll give you the details on that later, but we're going to do a quick episode with a little bit of truck talk, if you will. I'll let Thomas take the reins. Thomas?
Yeah, so like Ryan said, we definitely wanted to kind of just touch base on some things that we've been hearing across the industry from a lot of our insurers and some of our connections throughout the industry as a whole. And obviously the big one right now is the pending or looming recession that we may or may not be in, depending on who you ask. But definitely have been hearing lots of chatter from a lot of my clients personally that have been affected by this whole situation. Namely, I think the biggest issue right now is going rates and fuel tied with the downturn of economic spending. But I don't know if that's just been, my client base. I mean, I'm guessing, Ryan, correct me if I'm wrong, yours is.
Well, yeah, of course, we've been hearing that from our clients. I think across the board, some clients are doing well, some clients are not doing so well. Some of them are taking a break. And unfortunately, we're hearing that some of them are shutting down as well. This isn't obviously what we want to hear. We have to be honest with ourselves and know that the economy changes and the demand changes, which means supply changes. And so obviously this is an industry that is the epitome of supply and demand. So we really want to keep our fingers on the pulse, and we want to have conversations with our clients. And, we're reading a lot of articles and just paying attention to what the economy is doing. But yeah, I've definitely had some clients cancel their insurance policy because they're shutting down and selling their trucks, especially while the cost of trucks is still fairly inflated due to the shortages we've been having the last couple of years. And then I have had a few clients recently also talk to us about, trying to find a way to minimize their insurance, which is possible in some cases, not so possible in a lot of cases because of the federal filing that any motor carrier has on there. We can talk a little bit more about that later, but yeah, we really just want to kind of get a finger on the pulse, have a discussion about some things, maybe go into a little bit of, what we're hearing, and then get a little feedback from you. So if you do want to talk to us, we do have a LinkedIn where you can message us. It is obviously linkedin.com/in/galotpod or GALOT pod. You can thank my amazing brand for that one. So again, that's linkedin.com and then the /in/galotpod. Thomas, so what have your clients been
Yeah.
saying, and what exactly are you hearing, or what are you hearing in the news?
Well, besides the economic stuff, like you said, people facing the challenges of, maintaining profitability in this weird dynamic market that we're facing. Basically, is the big thing I'm getting is trying to find a way through the mess, right? What are people doing? What am I hearing of solutions that people are finding to maintain profitability or to not lose as much money, as some people out there unfortunately are. One of the biggest things that I keep preaching to my clientele is to help alleviate some of the pain is definitely, hiring qualified drivers or maintaining, proper safety inspection, things like that. I know that goes back to just where my expertise is in the insurance side of things, which isn't the best, industry-wide representation of how to mitigate any potential economic damages that are coming right now. But, they do play a large part because every dime saved helps a lot with the overhead and the bottom line that we're all trying to get here, which is
Right.
profitability. So I don't know if there's been any recent solutions to the availability of qualified drivers. I do know that the CDL drivers that have been issued Wait, let me rephrase that. More CDLs, new CDL licenses have been issued in like the past year than almost any ever before, from what I remember reading. Someone please correct me if I'm wrong too by hitting us on that LinkedIn website. Definitely want to hear some thoughts from you guys, but yeah, I don't think that those people have had the proper amount of time to get experienced yet. So that pool, while helpful for the industry at large, is not very helpful right now for a lot of established businesses. Have you seen the same thing with your
Yeah,
people?
I mean, obviously, we're hearing a lot about the rates and the fuel prices. And no, Thomas, I hope that you're not the cause for the economy and the current state of things. But yeah, I mean, really, at the end of the day, the rates are low. I'm reading a stat right now from DAT Freight and Analytics talking about from August 20 of 2022 versus August of 2021, spot load rates are down about 43%. There are some different rates in here. We could say flatbed, load to truck, 68%, reefer load to truck, 52, and then reefer spot are down about 7.8. And one of the reasons a lot of those spot market rates, I'm guessing, are coming from people who are really trying to get rid of a load in the reefer market that they can't. So those are probably going to stay fairly high. But I will be honest with my client base. I have a good amount of reefer haulers, and so talking to them, I haven't heard great things about the reefer spot rate market. So I'm sure these numbers are accurate, but it is definitely not what I'm hearing anecdotally on my end. The other thing
Mm.
is that we've actually had a conversation with a couple of our partners in the industry. Thomas, you've heard this as well. The market changed a lot for the last 2 years. So in the last 2 years, we had COVID, we had a lot of freight not moving, especially from Asia, China specifically, and that caused major backups in all the ports. That caused, manufacturing backups. That's caused all these things. So those last 2 years, people were just paying as much as possible to get this freight to move. Um, I can't really speculate too much, and I think it'd probably be wrong to about why maybe the rates have dropped so bad, whether it's intentional or whether it's as a result of how the economy is doing right now, or if it's a little bit of both. But one major thing I've been hearing is a lot of people in the spot market are going to be suffering for the time being. It's those dedicated contract loads that are getting paid a little better. So I guess our first piece of advice is if you can find, some dedicated contracts, or you can find some companies to partner with where you might be able to get on those loads, that could probably do you some good. But we know everybody's struggling and suffering, and really the whole point of this particular episode is for us to kind of just talk about what's going on. We can't give you too many tips, obviously, but we want to try to give you some tidbits of knowledge to what we've heard. So, Thomas, yeah, I would totally agree with you. I mean, the spot market isn't great. The rates from last year to this year have definitely changed because freight is moving, manufacturing starting to pick up, gas prices are high. We can talk about war going on in Europe right now as well, which is potentially causing some issues economically, which are rippling over. But what else do you think might be at play here?
All honesty, I do think the international tensions are playing a pretty large part in it personally. Obviously, I don't know the ins and outs of everything that goes into it, like, Ryan said about himself there. But, I do see, with the different angles that are being played with energy costs, from Europe and Russia and their ties with China and now them shipping natural gas and oil out. OPEC, I think, is doing a rate or a oil production decrease, and then the American fuel reserves are the lowest they've been for like 50 years. So, things are definitely kind of reaching a little bit of a bottleneck from what I can understand. And it looks like right now, fortunately, the gas prices have started to come down at least a little bit over the last, few months. I do feel like they peaked, early summer. But I think those are still going to be, you know, fluctuating quite a bit. Hopefully, they stay on the downward trend to help make those rates that you guys are getting out there a little bit more favorable. Because the fuel costs are lower, those rates are going to be, if they're, remain the same, they'll be worth more in the long run.
Yeah,
So that's always, the hope. Um, but yeah, besides that, I don't know what else can really help alleviate the supply chain issues besides obviously increased demand. But with the way things are and the economic output that's going out right now, I'm kind of concerned with how the future is going to go. And I feel like a lot of my clients have been too. And I guess that's a question I'd like to pose to any listeners. If there is any specific thing that you feel like is contributing to this situation we have with load procurement rates for shipping or fuel costs, things like that, please let us know. Or also anything that you guys have done, if you've been able to find a way through this mess and to be able to maintain or grow throughout this process. We would love to be able to hear that information so we can help other people understand how to potentially do that as well. Because definitely want to make sure that we're providing some value for our listeners out there. So help us out, and we'll be able to
Yeah,
help
Thomas,
others.
you also did bring up another good point, which is about driver, driver applications, or how many people are getting their CDL. I actually just read something as well that there are some driver training programs in schools around the country that are seeing the most interest they've ever seen in their life. And I also was reading an article recently. I can't remember who it's from, but drivers are actually getting paid on average more than they've ever been paid throughout history. So there's some good things going on right now. I just think it's kind of a rough market, and that we are still experiencing some slowdowns and movements and manufacturing and things of that nature. So I imagine this time of year, I always hear a little bit from this time of year. The rates are a little lower, until we kind of move into the next couple months, getting closer to Christmas. So that may be playing a part, but we know that obviously gas is really the biggest factor, because low rates have happened before, but gas prices this high have never happened before. So, we can't really say anything else but that. I do want to say a piece of good news that I heard about a gas provider. It's a gas station. I want to say it's out of the East Coast. They're called Sheets. I heard that they like dramatically reduced the price of diesel fuel. So if anybody hears this and they're looking for a company to support as far as buying gas from, I know that might be somewhat of a conundrum, but I would say Sheet sounds like they're really doing this, and their full intention behind it, at least in the public statement they've released, is to say, hey, truckers are the backbone of our country. That's pretty obvious when we talk about, again, supply and demand, and you being the epitome of that. Like, you are the only people who drive the supply. Consumers might drive the demand, but we need you. You're an integral part of this. So we obviously want to see our companies thrive and survive. And Sheets came out and made a public statement. I want to say it was right around $4.50 a gallon, which I think the average fuel price for diesel in the country as of today is either, I want to say it's 508 or 511. This would be September 7th when we're recording this, obviously 2022. Yeah, so those are kind of the things that I'm seeing. I really wanted to shout out that company because I think it's fantastic, especially if they're willing to take some cuts on their profit margins as a result of this. Thomas, probably another elephant in the room is us discussing, the move towards green energy and the move toward their automation of trucks,
Mhm.
or whether that be lithium or hydrogen cell batteries. I know that that's a changing trend in the market, and there have been some speculation that oil companies are kind of trying to squeeze every dollar they can while oil is still a hot commodity, and being demanded for. So I don't know if that plays any part, but I am curious to hear your opinion, and also listeners, definitely curious to hear your opinion. I know in the trucking industry there can be some conjecture in regards to fuel and whether that be climate change or the effectiveness of green energy and the actual carbon emissions behind it. But I think it's an interesting conversation to start. So if anybody has anything to say, please let me know. And then Thomas, yeah, what do you think?
Honestly, I think that is a really big, touchy subject throughout the industry. I do know that change definitely brings a lot of problems to a lot of um, established systems and the way that our transportation and logistical networks are set up, I'm not sure how much of a ripple effect it may have, because we're looking at various things coming into play. We're looking, like you said, at oil companies having reduced customers and demand for their product, which means those rates are going to go low at first, and then they're going to skyrocket because they're going to reduce production, which means demand is going to be higher than the supply, and that
Right, right.
cause problems there. We don't know how long it's going to take for some of these vehicles to recharge, which may delay some shipping times, versus what diesel can offer some of the motor carriers out there. So, lots of things to consider, and I do think in the long run, hopefully this whole push to go to the green energy, sector will help, stabilize our internal stability with our ability to maintain our logistical networks, where we don't have to rely so much on outside influences of, fuel to be able to maintain what we're trying to do. But as far as anything else related to the topic, I can't speak too heavily into it because I haven't done too much research. But I do know that the people I have talked to personally within the industry have said that they're kind of leery about the whole thing at this point. Also, there's the fear of taking people's jobs and things like that come into play. So, very much to talk about there, but again, not enough information for me to dive too deep into
Yeah, of
anything.
course. Well, and we can only do so much. It's more about getting people talking, kind of getting people also engaged in what's going on because I feel like, and obviously this isn't a dig at anybody in the industry. I think it's more of an analysis of humans in general. When a lot of people are presented with a problem, they tend to kind of look at it from the surface consequence, right? Because they're kind of in the middle of it. They say, "Oh, holy shit, fuel prices are crazy, rates are low. I'm not making any money. What am I going to do about it? I'm going to shut down." And I think it's pretty fair to say that in the short term, there's not always a lot that you can do about it, especially when we're talking about impacting economic policy or just policy in general. So, for example, we talk about the Inflation Reduction Act that just came out that Biden signed. And there are a lot of different, like, I think climate aimed policies in there and language to kind of help drive that. One of those, I think, is an incentive for the electrification or, I guess, greening of the trucking industry as well. And all of these things play into it, which I love. I want to see things go green. I don't want to die and be smothered by carbon dioxide in the next 20 years or what have you. But we do have to make sure that
Yeah.
these things are being implemented in a safe manner because a lot of times policy gets implemented and things move really slow, and so people kind of feel the effects more long term. And maybe it's an incentive for some of the truck owners, company owners out there to get out and start voting, start getting educated on the bills that are coming out. And if you don't think they're doing enough or you think that they could do something differently, getting people around you to get interested in it, obviously, especially truckers. You guys talk a lot. You're at truck stops and you're having conversations with truckers more than probably anybody. You have a very good circle of people that you can get invested in a very collective cause. So I definitely want to suggest that. Look into the bills that are coming out. Obviously, look into how some of these things are potentially impacting gas prices and who's maybe to blame. You're not. Be careful. But I would also like to say, hang in there, uh, Thomas. As you know, Christmas is coming up. There's going to be a high demand for consumer goods, and things will have to get better to some degree. We can't obviously quantify how much better, but we are seeing gas prices go down. I imagine in the near future we're going to see some rates go up. So any of you who are thinking about quitting, obviously you can only make the decision for yourself, but things are changing a little bit. But hopefully, you're at a point where things will start to get better at least for a little bit, and you can start to make a decision instead of having to react and shut down immediately. So, Thomas, any thoughts on that as far as company cultures
Yeah.
go?
Honestly, I think that, well, if we do have that, small economic boom around Christmas time to hopefully, jumpstart a little bit of a, market correction in the upward direction, that would be pretty awesome. And I don't know, how long a sustained rally would be, but I can say with, a lot of confidence that, you know, our markets go through booms and busts all the time. We see a recession once a decade at least. So maybe we're just getting this one out of the way early, and it'll correct here in another year, and we'll all suffer a little bit for it. I mean, it's just what's going to have to happen. Unfortunately, it's kind of like the healing pains after you break your ankle playing football or something. But eventually we'll be back up on our feet running again, and it'll be just as good, if not better, as it is, pre-COVID. So, I do say, like, kind of echo what Ryan was saying. If you do find yourself in dire straits right now, ask around to try to find ways to solve the problems that you're facing. Look for resources to help educate yourself so you could be better equipped to face any new ones that might come down the pipeline. But like Ryan said, pay attention to new bills that are coming out so you can see how to prepare for things that are coming down, or maybe some new markets to jump into so you can get some new dedicated routes and contracts so you can maintain some growth, or maybe even potentially actually grow your company and hire new drivers. There's also the trucking associations that you can get involved with too, to help build your network of people within the industry that you can use to leverage and make more connections to find more loads that potentially could pay more. So, I mean, there's lots of ways that, people are finding ways through this. And hopefully, if you take those steps while we're in this, hurt locker, so to speak, you'll be able to come out of it, with the tools to help really springboard towards a more rapid and profitable success, once the economy starts surging up again, because we can see every time in the past it's done just that. But I don't know. I don't think I can really say much more besides that. You have any follow up thoughts, Ryan?
I think that's great advice. Honestly, I mean, the reality is you have to make the decision for yourself of what's going on. Things are changing. Um, I can only provide so much insight historically. You can only provide so much insight historically. We haven't really seen this in our last few years, at least. But like you said, there are recessions that happen. Supply and demand changes. Uh, Trucking industry changes, and as things open up from COVID, things are gonna there are going to be less things shipped in large portions just because people are potentially back in stores buying things more, right? So I assume that there's a lot of different variables at play here, and all of those need to be accounted for. Um, yeah, other than that, anything else that we should talk about? I mean, we kind of kept it on the gloom and doom, unfortunately, because it is such a it is such a hot topic. But we do want to do
Yeah.
these in the future. We want to have engaging conversations as much as we can from a recorded podcast. Um, what else have you heard? Anything else?
Honestly, no, not too much. Like you said, it's all been kind of doom and gloom lately, which is really unfortunate. I would love to find a way to end this on a more positive note. But I honestly, yeah, it's been pretty rough out there lately. So, um, yeah, I guess. Oh, actually, no, I just remembered something I saw. Veteran actually didn't even plan this. It was just the first shirt I grabbed this morning. But I did see a new program that was initiated to help veterans and military members cross over from their experience in the military to get into a CDL school, or to get the training to become a CDL driver, and to also be job placed into other aspects of the transportation industry. So I thought that was really good news. Hopefully that can help alleviate some of the non-qualified driver issues I mentioned before, because we all know those gentlemen out there in the service definitely learn to drive effectively. There's no real questions about their skills. So, but yeah, other than that, no other really um, happy news that I can report. But yeah, I would honestly, though, love to hear some success stories, or some wins that people are having. Again, that LinkedIn profile set up so you guys can chat with us. We'll definitely be able to respond to you at this point, because we're just getting that whole
Yeah.
process started. So let us know some good
No,
news.
no,
Let us know some bad news, success stories,
yeah,
solutions.
definitely. And sorry to cut you off. Yeah, I do. We definitely want to hear your good stories, so please send them in. And I honestly just wanted to add, while we're having these conversations about there being some struggles in the industry, I think it's really important to note that I actually have the majority of my clients are actually doing fantastic. right? Everybody's taking the hit, as we can expect, because these hits are affecting everybody to some degree, whether it's a large rate drop or a minimal rate drop, but everybody paying, effectively $1.50 more a gallon per diesel since I think March or February, whenever it was, is huge. But there are a lot of people winning out there. Some of them are in the spot market. A lot of them are in contract dedicated routes. But again, I guess just diversify, try to talk to more people, try to get some loads from dedicated brokers, and try to find some contracts if you're able. I think that's really the big thing that we want to talk to. I think a couple things before we go. We'd really like your input as well. So if there's anybody that you are interested in talking to, any organizations or any people that you're interested in hearing us interview, please hit that LinkedIn. Again, linkedin.com/IN/GALOTPOD, Galotpod. I love that. So please hit us. We'd like to hear your opinions. We'd like to hear your success stories, and we'd like to hear anything you'd like to talk about in a future episode of this. So let us know. I think that's really all we have. Thomas, you have anything more for these folks?
No, not right now. I just want to echo, please engage with us. We would definitely like to be able to have this be more interactive so we can provide, our listeners with more value. So give us some input, and we'll definitely endeavor to do our best to get that out to you.
Make sure we're doing our job. Thanks, Thomas. This is another episode of Get a Load of This podcast. We do really want to bring you tons of value. That is our aim and goal. And hopefully we've done that so far. And other than that, please tune in. This is driven by Valley Trucking Insurance, as always. And we salute you, truck drivers, coming up on Truck Driver Appreciation Week. Take care of yourselves and be well. We'll see you soon.